Hello, everyone. My name is Steven Munatones, and I am the CEO and co-founder of KAATSU Global. And thank you very much for attending this webinar. We usually have two webinars monthly. One was held earlier this morning, and now this is at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States. We received a variety of questions. I don't know if any of you attended the this morning's session, but I'm going to go over a series of questions. And then if you have additional questions, you can ask them in the Q&A down below in the chat function. So I'm going to share my screen and go over the questions one by one. And you can you can see the questions and I'll read them out loud and then answer them to the best of my ability. So here we go. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Move this out of the way. Oops. Sorry. Sorry, I want to do this again. This is the first question. And the first question comes from Richard. For a non-athlete who is using KAATSU for both the amazing health benefits and to improve muscle mass, note, I do weights separately from KAATSU using super slow and 2 failure once or twice per week based on my recovery rate. Is there an ideal frequency and cut setting? I have the C4 model to use. Yes, there is. And let's share what he does. I do the following. In the morning, he does 1 set of cycle on low, followed by 6 sets of high arms, then legs. In the late afternoon, he does 1 set of progressive cycle on the highest SQ range on his arms and then his legs. On the days that he does weights, he does the same immediately after working out and try to follow up with a usual late afternoon progressive as well. Is this optimal, or would it be better to squeeze a 3rd session in every day, either halfway between morning and late afternoon, or perhaps just before bed? And if so, what settings would you recommend, please? Is there something else you'd recommend? And finally, is it better to do 7 days a week or say 5 days a week with breaks? Okay, so there's a lot here. And thank you very much for doing so much KAATSU. That's great. If you consider in the morning, he's doing 7 cycles sets, first on his arms, then on his legs. So he's doing 14 sets. That's at least an hour and a half. And then in the afternoon, he's doing a set of progressive at the high range, which means it's longer, probably 18 minutes, first on his arms and then on his legs. And then he does the same after working out. So that's a lot of KAATSU, and that's good. But really, when people ask what is the ideal frequency and what settings, pressure settings, the duration should I use, we have to ask, how old are you? What are your goals? And what do you like to do? So, and all of those will lead to different answers. So for example, for an 18-year-old or a 48-year-old or a 78-year-old, our answer would be different. Likewise, if your goal is muscle building or muscle maintenance versus stamina improvement versus injury rehabilitation, again, it's different. So when people write to KAATSU or ask KAATSU, am I doing this correctly? Our immediate response is, what would you like to do? What are the goals that you've set forward for yourself? And then we can provide the answers on how you can incorporate KAATSU into your fitness program or training regimen. So this is a non-athlete who likes to improve his muscle mass. Since he does it in the morning and late afternoon and actually has time to do a third session, we can assume that he's probably older rather than younger. And if this is the case, then, and he does weight separately, we can, let's break this down. So what is the ideal frequency? He's already doing the ideal frequency, and that's daily. Now, his last question is it better to do it 7 days a week or 5 days a week? We recommend, and Dr. Sato himself and myself included, we do KAATSU daily. That doesn't mean that we work out hard doing muscle strengthening exercises every single day. In Dr. Sato's case, he's 76 years old, and on Thursdays, he does spinning on a stationary bicycle. That's what he does. Every day, he's doing at least 2 hours of KAATSU cycle, simply while he's sitting down and reading or studying something. In my case, I do a lot of KAATSU cycles. Well, doing emails, reading reports, trying to figure out what is the best new application or iteration of an app. This is how I use it. This is how Dr. Sato uses. Now, we also, or in Dr. Sato's case, he's also into muscle building, muscle size. And so he does a variety of other exercises in the evening. So if you want to improve your muscle mass with KAATSU, there are several recommendations we make. One, follow all of the standard protocols. So be very well hydrated. In other words, you know you're well hydrated when your urine is clear or nearly clear. If it's bright yellow, you're not well hydrated. And so always be very well hydrated during and before you start your KAATSU session. 2, always start with a low KAATSU cycle, always 100%. And in the morning session, I expressed a phenomenon that we have with KAATSU. I'm right now putting the KAATSU band on. And I haven't done KAATSU since this afternoon. So I'm using the B2. So I'm going to turn it on with the app right now. Turn it on. Now I'm going to pair. Here we are here. And now it is started. I'm only using it on one side and the other. As I'm explaining, the band is inflating for 30 seconds, deflating, inflating at a slightly higher pressure, deflating, inflating, 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 deflating. As it's doing that, my blood flow going from my torso into my arm is continuing unimpeded. It's continuing unimpeded. Oh, let me go this way. That way you could see a little bit better. Okay. So it's continuing unimpeded. You can actually see the difference in one side versus the other. Look at the color here versus here. Look at the color here in the hand versus here. I've only had it on for now, 45 seconds. So what's happening right now is blood is going in and then slowed down coming back or modified coming back for 30 seconds. During this period of time, the vascular system in my arm is literally becoming more elastic. And you could see the difference in my hands here. It's becoming more elastic. And what does that mean? That literally means that I can now tighten this even more than I initially put it on. So blood goes in, then it comes out. My vascular tissue becomes more elastic. And after 1 or 2 cycles, I can actually retighten this band to make it slightly tighter. So we always want you to, and you do that, you can do that on your arms, but especially on your legs. So if you're looking at improving your muscle mass, making your muscles bigger, first thing you want to do is start off in the low pressure in the cut cycle mode. Let that go for 1 or 2 cycles, so between 6 and 12 minutes. Then retighten, meaning you can make it not a lot tighter, but incrementally tighter. Then continue the cycles as you warm up. You can either stick on cycles, which we recommend, or you can do 10 minutes of constant, which we don't recommend, but some people like that. So after you do those warm-up cycles, after you retighten, after you're on your cycle mode, then actually do your exercises, resistance exercises or weight training, as Richard does. He uses a super slow method, and do that same thing with KAATSU. So in other words, whether I'm doing a squat or a bicep curl, I'm actually going slowly and contracting the muscle as I go up and down. Doesn't matter if you're doing heel raises, squats, presses, lunges, doesn't matter. Go up and down slowly, and you will feel the burn. So start with cut cycle, continue with cut cycle, retighten the band, stay well hydrated, move the limb very slowly upwards and downwards, contract the muscle both in the eccentric and concentric direction. You want to do 3 to 4 sets. Some people even do 5 sets, whereas the first set, let's say you do 30, and 30 should be your ideal number of repetitions on the first set. Whatever you can do, set the resistance or do the exercise so you could do 30 reps. You don't have to do more. Rest no more than 20 seconds, no more than 20 seconds, and you'll be surprised as you go through and do your KAATSU workout how quickly 20 seconds is. And when Dr. Sato and myself do this form of workout, it's a very disciplined way to work out. 20 seconds. Even the layout of what you're doing in the gym, if that's where you're doing your workout, or at your home, get it so you can move from one movement or one series of exercise to the other within 20 seconds. Maximum 20 seconds, then begin your second set. If you have the correct pressure, then on the second set, the number of repetitions you do should definitely not be 30. It will be somewhere south of 30. 20, we'll say, just round number. Rest again, no more than 30 seconds. Do your third set. By the third set, you're going to feel a lot of lactate buildup. You're going to feel your muscles pumped, and it's going to be more difficult to do a lot of reps. Maybe you do 5, maybe you do 8. Then rest no more than 20 seconds. And the fourth or fifth, if you can do it, you may be able to do 1 or 2. And that would be ideal for exercise number 1. Exercise number 2, again, no more than 20 seconds rest. Begin the second exercise. Maybe you did hand grips on the first exercise, and then maybe you moved to bicep curls, and then maybe you did your tricep extensions as third, or shoulder press, whatever you're doing. So moving your limbs slowly, contracting your muscles in both directions, and then doing sets where you start at a higher number of repetitions, limit your rest to 20 seconds, and then finish at a lower number of repetitions, ideally between 1 and 3 on your last set, is a good way to is a proven way to increase your muscle mass. Because depending on the amount of weight you're using or resistance you have, you won't be tearing your muscle fibers, so you shouldn't get sore after the workout. You'll feel pumped, but you shouldn't feel sore. You shouldn't have that DOMS feeling, delayed onset muscle soreness. You can do that the next day and the next day and the next day. So you can do it 7 days a week. Now, what we recommend is you separate your days. If your goal is to increase your muscle mass, separate it on, arms and shoulders and core and legs, etc. So this would be the most efficient way to do it. You can do between 3 and 7 different types of exercises. And this would be a very good way to build muscle mass. Now, not everybody is, oops, let's see, what did I just do? I don't know what I just did. I mean, just this, no, this, maybe yeah, again, let's see. Got it. I don't want to hit that. Anyway, you actually see 2 different images. They're the exact same image, and I apologize for that. I'll try to move this out of the way so you can see me, but also see the question. So that is if you want to increase your muscle mass. If you want to increase your stamina, let's say, then you'll do something different. Stamina, maybe you want to do walking, jogging, rowing, stationary bicycle, or other means. Again, if you want to increase your stamina, I'll give you a little example of what the Japanese marathon runners use, their program. And that was what they did was they would pick a pace. I'll just do a rough number. Let's say their goal time was to run 5-minute miles for the full marathon. What they would do in the start of the season is they would their goal is to run at 5-minute miles. What they would do in practice would break up that mile, let's say quarter mile, so one time around a track. Then they would add very, very light KAATSU, and they would try to keep that pace with very, very low pressure, extremely low. In the beginning, maybe they were able to do it or not. They would continue to train at that extremely low pressure, but trying to maintain that same pace. Once they were able to maintain that pace, let's say they'll do 10 one-lap runs with, let's say, an easy lap in between at 1 minute and 15 seconds, if that was their goal pace, at a very, very light pressure. Once they were able to achieve that, then they increased the pressure. They didn't increase the pace. They didn't decrease the interval. They were still running at that same pace, broken up, but they were using a higher pressure, incrementally higher. The analogy here is that they were trying to run a 5-minute mile, let's say at sea level, and during their training, when they added pressure, that would be the equivalent of running the 5-minute mile at, let's say, 1,000 feet or 500 meters. And then when they're able to maintain that pace, then they up the pressure. They up the pressure, let's say, again, incrementally by 10 SKU or 20 SKU, just a little bit. But then the analogy would be that they were trying to run at that same pace at 2,000 feet. And throughout the season, their body would adapt by increasing pressure, enabling them to maintain the same pace. Now, most of us, or almost all of us, can't run a 5-minute mile for a full marathon, but we have something equivalent. So, for example, you could go on a casual walk, and over the course of the next year, you can increase either the pace that you're walking or the amount of pressure that you're adding to the bands during your walk. So pace, distance, duration, and now you have a fourth parameter that you can work on, and that is KAATSU pressure. So all of these, all of these examples are ways that you can improve yourself using the KAATSU pressure. In Richard's case, his goal was to increase his muscle mass, but you could use the same principles if you want to increase your stamina or your speed. In other words, let's say you were into martial arts, or let's say you were you wanted just to be able to increase the club head speed of your golf swing. So in this case, you want to swing the club, with good technique, but initially you might start off with essentially no pressure, get your technique down, either with the bands on your arms or your legs, but you're still swinging the club at the same, quickly as you can. Then as you do KAATSU golfing, you can incrementally increase the pressure of the bands. Like resistance training, like a stamina improvement with the runners, and like golfers, after you take off the bands on your arms or your legs, shake it out, hydrate a little bit, then do the same movement. So runners would run without the bands. They will find that their running they feel lighter, they feel quicker, they feel stronger. In the same way, you're practicing your golf swing, at a pretty fast rate as the club is going, as you're following through with the club, with the bands. Then you take off the bands, and now you shake it out a little bit, rest 1 or 2 minutes, and then go ahead and swing the club again. You'll find that movement without the bands feels great. So these are all examples of how you can use KAATSU over and over again using different pressures. So going back to Richard's question, what is the ideal frequency? He's doing it twice a day. That's great. If you wanted to increase for the third session of the day, I would actually recommend, if sleep quality, you'd like to improve sleep quality, I would actually do a third session closer to evening, where you're just chilling out, reading, watching TV, relaxing with the KAATSU bands on, going pressure on, pressure off, just very low. But what Richard is doing twice a day right now is ideal. If he would like to do it 7 days a week, that's good. Doesn't have to. You could take a day off here and there. Not that Dr. Sato or myself do, but that's okay to take off a day here and there. You might be on travel, you might just be on vacation, or you might have left the gear at home and you're on a day trip somewhere. So don't feel bad if you miss a day. But again, ideal frequency would be daily. And if you do it twice daily, that's also very, very good. As to the pressure should be, if you're doing this as Richard is during resistance training, then the amount of pressure should be the amount that you could do 30 repetitions of any given exercise. If you do 25, that's good enough. If that is 200 SKU or 150 SKU or 300 SKU, that's up to you. It is also different on what muscle group you're using. Let's say that you're doing hand curls, hand grips versus bicep curls versus push-ups. Those are all different exercises, and you'll either be, stronger or weaker depending on what body part you're using. So again, 30 is the ideal, or I'll say optimal repetition for the first set. Subsequent sets will then fall from that. So everybody is a different pressure, and it should be the optimal pressure is what is good for you, not necessarily the next person. So those are some of the recommendations that we have based on Richard's question. It also is very good that Richard actually does his arm first and then his legs. That's always ideal. So thank you, Richard, for that question. The next question comes from Randy, and I'll read it out loud as you see it in front of you. Please explain the KAATSU protocol to heal surgery stitches. When to start after surgery, what to do, how often, arms and legs, or both, which mode. I am concerned that increased blood pressure will rip the stitches open. I had skin cancer surgery on the top of my left ear this past Monday. Stitches were required to hold the skin together until it heals. I want to use KAATSU to heal faster and get back to ocean swims faster. Great question, Randy. Now, what is very, very interesting is when you do KAATSU, the body actually heals itself faster. We often say this to our KAATSU users who then have some surgery, because there have been cases when the surgeon doesn't know you do KAATSU, and he or she will then tell you, oh, come back next week, come back after 5 days, and we'll remove the stitches. Well, some people actually do KAATSU, and they do it quite diligently, very similar to Richard in the previous question. And what happens is that the skin grows over the stitches. That literally it grows over, the body is healing itself faster. Then when they go back to see the surgeon is often surprised because the skin has grown over the sutures. And then what has to happen is they have to cut the skin, and then that just leads to other possibilities, not probabilities, but possibilities of infection and other things. So if you're going to do KAATSU after a surgery, which we recommend, always inform your surgeon that you're doing this and that there will be a possibility that the stitches, the skin will heal itself faster than he or she is used to. Just be aware, and also, look at your own body healing process. And if there's skin growing over the sutures, then you need to get over there more quickly. So what do you do for stitches? Now, in Randy's case, he had stitches on top of his left ear. And so what he should do, or what I would do in this case, is I wouldn't do anything special other than 2 sessions of KAATSU a day. Excuse me, morning and afternoon. I would do 6 cycles on the arms, then 6 cycles on the legs. I would start with low and then proceed to high. Probably because you have the stitches on top of your ear, you probably can't get wet. So, you could do all the other exercises that you would like, all the dry land exercises, so walking or other things. The increased blood pressure, even if it were on the arm or leg, but yours is on top of the ear, that that additional pressure, it won't rip the stitches open. You don't have to worry about that. I mean, obviously, if the surgery was on a major artery or major vein, then obviously you don't want to do that. If you have any concern, then you can simply do KAATSU on your legs only. But the increased blood pressure won't rip the stitches open. We've never had, since Dr. Sato has used this on patients since 1973, we've never ever had that occur. Now we have had people who've had amputations or major surgery, and we've avoided that body part in the early stages of their recovery. So unfortunately, we see soldiers that body parts that have to be amputated, and in these cases, we've avoided that arm or leg, in the early stages, but these are exceptions. So you could do KAATSU right away if you're at all nervous. Do KAATSU on your legs. Do the KAATSU cycle. Start on low, go to high. I would do it twice a day, both on your arms and then on your legs. You can avoid the arms if you have any worries, and only and always the cycle mode. So don't use the constant mode, not necessary. Anything else? I would be very well hydrated when you're doing even the sitting down at your office or on your couch doing KAATSU. And hopefully you can get back to your ocean swims faster. The next series of questions I actually are repeated from this morning, and I don't know if the same people are back. But so my answers to these questions were explained in detail in the morning. This evening, I'll just go over shortly. So the first question, this question from Dawn relates to an individual who has long COVID, but they were very fit prior to having long COVID, and now they're debilitated and deconditioned. And it's been going on for 2.5 to 3 years. They have been walking daily, and they would like to know what they should do with KAATSU. So in this case, I would recommend that usually with KAATSU, we have you put on the bands with a 1-finger tightness, but with long COVID, with Raynaud's disease, with neuropathies, with people who are quadriplegic, paraplegic, hemiplegic, etc., we recommend a looser fit, so maybe a 2 or 3-finger tightness. Only KAATSU cycle on low pressure, and if that is too much, meaning if you do a KAATSU session and the next 2 days you are completely fatigued and shot, the pressure was too high, go to custom setting and put the pressure even lower. You can do this while you're lying down in bed. If you can't get up, if you can get up and sit just as you sit, you don't actually have to do KAATSU walking or anything like that. Again, a longer form answer was recorded and will be posted on Friday. Second question from Don was the travel ease of KAATSU. And everybody in our company travels all the time. Myself from LAX, my colleague Chris Morgan from Boston and out of Logan Airport, my colleague John Doolittle from Tampa. We're traveling frequently. We always take our KAATSU with us to the airport, use it at the airport, and then use it in the airplane. We've never had an issue with the TSA security check. They've never pulled it out of my bag or Chris's bag or John's bag and question us. But if they did, we would simply explain to them what it is. It's a device that you put on your arms or legs, and that helps engorge our limbs in blood. Information is all public. They can see the website, so I don't foresee KAATSU equipment being confiscated by any kind of security check, and that holds true for airports in Asia, in Europe, in Mexico, in Canada, Australia, Japan, Singapore, etc. Next question is from Renee, who's been using KAATSU for about 2 months now, 6 to 7 times a week. And her question is, what happens with people who have varicose veins? Now, if you have varicose veins, what's happening is the valves in the veins coming back up, bringing the blood back up from your feet to your torso, are impacted in some way, and they don't open and close as they did when we were younger. And so what we need to do, or what KAATSU can enable, is that tissue that comprises of the valve to make it more elastic, meaning reverting back to what it was before. And in this case, the best way to do that is by body weight KAATSU, done diligently over time. And over time means not days and weeks, but several months, 9 to 12 months, usually on average. Again, just doing casual KAATSU walking with the KAATSU in this KAATSU cycle mode, and then gradually that tissue in the valves becomes elastic enough that it reverts back, so there's not this backflow of blood. Also, she asks about people who have leg cramps. It's very important to be very well hydrated. Again, well hydrated means that your urine is nearly clear, not bright yellow. You can also eat something small before you do KAATSU, let's say a banana or a slice of orange. And if you are prone to leg cramps, always do the KAATSU first on your arms, and then proceed to your legs. Always use the low pressure in the KAATSU cycle mode, not the constant mode. Next questions are from Donald, who has large veins on the back of his hands, and he's wondering if it's okay to use KAATSU. Yes, it's okay. The vascular tissue of our capillary, as in our veins and arteries, is very tough, and you won't burst them in any way. Again, KAATSU is meant to be gentle. KAATSU is not a tourniquet. It's not a blood pressure cuff. So we have blood constantly going in and out of our limbs when we have KAATSU, even at the highest level. So you don't have to worry about that. His next question is, can you put tight gloves on your hands and use KAATSU? It depends the definition of tight. If it's so tight that blood is impeded, meaning cut off in some way with the gloves going to your hand, then definitely don't do KAATSU. But if the gloves are just simply tight because you're working on something or you're grabbing something, and they're simply snug, that's perfectly okay. We have a lot of people who use KAATSU as they're shoveling snow, in the Midwest or the Northeast recently. So that's perfectly okay. I'm actually going to put the KAATSU on my other arm and explain that when you do KAATSU and what happens, this phenomenon. Let me just put it on here, turn it on here. So it's on. And I'll be able to explain other things or visually show it. I'm 60 years old. This is Kathy. As we grow older and the possibility of cancer increases, is there any concern about using KAATSU as it increases building of more blood vessels, which could contribute to cancer growth? Yes, KAATSU does two things very, very well, and that is it increases the elasticity of our blood vessels and actually increases the number of blood vessels that you have. So right now, I have the, oops, I don't know if you can see. Let me just stop this share. Okay, so I have the band on and the, let me go back to the question was, can KAATSU cause a cancer? So I have the band on, it's going on. You see the uh, veins on the back of my hand, they're not gonna burst in any way. And does this cause cancer? So right now, I am in the midst of doing KAATSU. I'm actually creating new capillaries in my brain and elsewhere. This was first documented by the cardiologist at the University of Tokyo Hospital 25 years ago. It was also replicated the same exercise, same phenomenon in a functional MRI machine at the University of Lausanne. So we do know that you're increasing the number of blood vessels in your body. And along the way, the University of Tokyo Hospital cardiologist tested over 12,000 patients between 2004 and 2014. Many of them, over 2,000 of them, had cardiac issues, and vast majority of them were older. During this period of time when KAATSU is being carefully documented by the Japanese government and its doctors, because in Japan, unlike the United States, it's nationalized medicine. So not one hint or inkling or possibility of KAATSU causing cancer was ever reported. If it were, we would never have seen KAATSU here in the United States. So you don't have to worry about that. I'll go back to the question so you can see. Next question is Raphael. It's related. And this question is, as KAATSU increases the hormone IGF-1, IGF stands for insulin growth factor, which is known for its cancer-promoting effects, what can we expect from KAATSU regarding cancer? Just to be very clear, insulin growth factor 1 is a naturally produced hormone. It's not artificial. And we've had it, humans have had it for as long as we're alive. I don't know. This is the first that I've heard that it's known for its cancer-promoting effects, but you don't have to worry about that. KAATSU does not cause cancer. There was never any hint of it. If there were, none of I would be here and KAATSU would not be here. So there is no worry about this whatsoever. Next question is from Joanna. Could you please explain how KAATSU affects fascia? I've asked this question a few times, but never have received an answer. Fascia includes capillaries, as does everything in our human body. And like everything in our human body, we benefit from the increased elasticity of the vascular tissue, which is also included in fascia. Now, this is the first I've heard this question, but the reason maybe you have not received an answer is because we have not done any specific targeted research on on KAATSU's effects on fascia. So what we can say definitively is when independent scientists and physicians do research on KAATSU and they find out different phenomena like the increase of vascular elasticity or the increase in capillaries in our brain, or the increase in muscle mass. These are things that have been documented by third-party independent scientists. We have not done anything with fascia, at least to that I'm aware of. So we can't say that it's improved or harmed in any way, although if the skin, the bone, the connective tissue, and the muscle, of which fascia is all interconnect there, is improved, one would likely think that fascia is also positively impacted. But because we have not done any specific targeted research on this, there's nothing that we can definitively say about KAATSU effects on fascia. Questions from Jim is somewhat related. Does KAATSU also have benefits for connective tissue? For example, tennis elbow recovery. If so, what is the best protocol to use? So we have our skin, our muscles, our bones, and our connective tissue, ligaments and tendons. So we go from our skin and our muscles, which are very capillary rich parts of our body, very much like our organs are capillary rich. And then you go to your bones, which are have fewer capillaries, and then to our connective tissue, which have even fewer capillaries. Now, that doesn't mean that KAATSU doesn't help. What it means that KAATSU, and this is the answer to the second question, is that the best protocol to use is start off at a low pressure, use it for a longer period of time, and then ultimately reach the higher pressure. With higher pressures, we're going to engorge a limb in blood even more. At a very low pressure, it's very easy to see the redness in the arms, hands, legs, and feet. At higher pressures, but even though the skin and the muscle is engorged in blood, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of the capillaries are similarly engorged. It takes a little bit longer time and a little bit higher pressure. So that is a good reason why to use the KAATSU progressive cycle, which starts out very low and then gradually increases to a higher pressure. And that's what we would recommend if you have tendonitis, carpal tunnel syndrome, or other issue related to connective tissue. You can do very simple things. All the things that a physical therapist would recommend you do, you could do also with KAATSU, but then you could also do very simple things. You can just open and close your hand. You can do slight stretching, and it never stretch to the point that it hurts. Go to the point just before it hurts, and even use it as you're brushing your teeth, combing your hair, folding clothes, washing dishes, etc. Any of your normal movements that you do. I would actually, if I had tennis elbow, I would be putting these bands on my arms throughout the day, at least twice a day. Oops, do that again. Move this out of the way. Sorry, maybe I'll go up here. Okay, questions from Donna. I broke my arm from a fall and had to have a plate and screws placed. It's been 4 weeks since the surgery, and I want to know if it's too soon yet to start KAATSU intervention. No, it's not too soon. You can begin right away. Also, given it is an injury, do you recommend a coach or someone or is there something I can safely initiate yourself? Yes, you can safely do it yourself. If you would like some guidance, someone to talk to, we do have a one-on-one program that you can go to KAATSU.com, and there's a section in our website where you can um, look at our experienced specialists, and then you contact them directly. It's for pay. You do have to pay for it. The money does not come to COTS. It goes directly to those people. And then uh, talk to them for half an hour. They can give you some one-on-one advice. But you can safely initiate into KAATSU yourself. Always cut cycle, always start on low, always be well hydrated. I can't stress those parameters enough. Her last question is, I used KAATSU for tissue damage and varicose veins following a total knee replacement 2 years ago, and it was very, very effective. Great. That sounds wonderful. And so it sounds like you know how to optimally use KAATSU. And thank you very much, Donna, for that. Question from Barbara is, would KAATSU bands be safe and beneficial for someone, an older adult who has AVM in the lower leg and heart failure? Um, I explain what AVM is. It's basically when you got your artery and you have your veins, and there's capillaries all over the place in between, and it simply the blood flow goes from the artery directly to the veins, and it bypasses this capillary network. That's abnormal, and she explains below how it came about. But I'll go back to her main question. With heart failure and AVM, would KAATSU be safe and beneficial? I would 100% recommend that you speak with your physician and healthcare professionals about this. If they had any question, I'm almost certain they don't know about KAATSU. Inform us, and we can send them, or we can send to you information that then they can be passed on to your healthcare professional. But we would not give you a yay or nay because there are too many health issues, and we're not a qualified healthcare professional to know your history and what could be going on. So first rule is talk to your physician about it. If they don't know anything about it, we can provide you information. We have a number of studies. We are very welcome to send you all of the information that we have that you can forward on to your physician. If the physician had any direct interest in talking with us, I'm very open. I'll take a call from any physician and answer any question that they have. Question from Mario is, could you create a chart or table to simplify when and how to use KAATSU, or where to find it, with pressures, exercise, cycling, etc.? I have a C3 and a watch videos, but there's just too much information there. He asked if maybe a table could show things like when to use cycling versus constant pressure, and what pressures are for what exercises, just sitting, walking, weight training, and others. And can KAATSU be used multiple times a day? The last question is most certainly a yes. It can be used multiple times a day. 2 would be great. I always recommend people do both arms and legs. Some people prefer only arms or mostly arms. Some people prefer only legs or primarily legs, and that's okay. But in terms of creating a chart to simplify how KAATSU use, that's very difficult because we have so many people who use KAATSU, and it ranges literally from 4 years old to 104 years old, literally. We have people who are disabled. We have people who are comatose in some isolated cases. We have people who are quadriplegic, hemiplegic, paraplegic. We have people who have strokes. We have people who want to win an Olympic medal, and we have other people who simply want to walk up a flight of stairs. So all of those people, it's hard to make a simple formula what should be used. Now we have simple principles, and those principles include primarily, and as I reiterated throughout, be well hydrated, use the KAATSU cycle, start in low. If you want to increase in pressure to medium or high, you can do so. Um, uh, unless you have a very specific need for use of constant pressure, you don't have to use constant pressure. Constant pressure is when someone is doing something very specific. It could be like the aforementioned golf swing. If you want to increase the club head speed of your golf swing, that would be a good time to use the constant mode. But cycling should be the vast usage of your KAATSU regimen. The amount of pressure completely depends on what you would like to do. So, for example, in Dr. Sato's case, in my case, if we are using KAATSU on a spinning bike, on a stationary bike, just spinning, that is a different pressure than if we're using KAATSU to, I don't know, do bench press or bicep curls, or walking on the beach. Every exercise has a different optimal pressure for every individual. So if we say, well, you should use high in this case, that might be appropriate for a younger person who is at Olympic level. It would be entirely inappropriate for even a fit 65-year-old. So my aunt, I guess that's a long way to say my request is, instead of asking us to simplify KAATSU, tell us how old you are, what's your level of fitness, what you like to do, and very importantly, what are your goals? Is it like Richard in the beginning who wants to build muscle? Or is it like Randy who's recovering from a skin surgery? So tell us what you would like to do by email at info@kaatsu.com, info@kaatsu.com, very specifically what you would like to achieve. And then we will send you recommendations on how, based on our experiences, how well, or how what protocols, what pressures, frequency, duration, etc., you can use to achieve those goals. That's easier. It gives you the answer that's very specific for you. Oh, and that's what I have. If you have any questions, I do see some questions here, and I'll go through those questions. First question is, I have had long COVID with microclotting throughout my body. The clots were in the capillaries. I had a good doctor, and from blood tests, thrombin, antithrombin, the microclotting is gone. A year later, I am fairly well recovered, but have profound muscle weakness. I've just begun KAATSU and all seems well so far. Have others used KAATSU after long COVID? Are there any precautions? I am 70 years old. Yes, we have many people who have used KAATSU, actually, as they've had long COVID. So they're very, very weak. Many of them unable to get out of their house. Many of them bedridden. In all cases, they were using very, very conservative KAATSU, meaning very low pressure. They put on the bands not with a 1 finger tightness, but either a 2 or 3 finger tightness. always using only a low pressure or customize even lower pressure. Never doing anything vigorous or intensely when you're doing KAATSU. Always being well hydrated. And again, I seem to be reiterating the same advice, same message, but it is actually quite true. And so if you're fully recovered, it sounds like you are, so that's great. Again, I think it was Richard in the very beginning, move your muscles, move your limbs slowly, if you want to increase your muscle mass. Another thing you can do is actually do isometric exercises. So when you have the bands on your arms or legs, you can either push your hands together, you can pull your arms apart, you could put your hands on, let's say, a tabletop or the wall or your armrest, push down. You don't actually have to move your body, but you can just press it against an immobile object. An ideal isometric exercise, for example, on your legs would be either to do a heel raise and hold it, or do a wall sit and hold it. Now, obviously, people with long COVID most likely cannot do those exercises, and that's okay. But those are the kind of things. So maybe you have at the foot of your bed, you can put your feet against the foot of the bed and push. Something very simple like that. Next question is, I have an 8-week-old severe L5 compression fracture and would like to begin using KAATSU. When would be best to begin KAATSU? You can begin it now. Now, I assume you're seeing a physician, and if the only thing that you've done is this compression fracture, then okay, but there may be other things too. Our chief medical officer is a renowned orthopedic surgeon. We also have professor in neurology. We have a variety of specialties in our KAATSU family. And if your physician does not know about KAATSU or very specific, he or she can reach out to us, or you could reach out to us and ask for very specific information so you can share with your physician. But if it's 8 weeks, you should be able to begin KAATSU. But again, this should be left in the hands of your own healthcare professional, because he or she knows your situation very well. It's the next question is it okay to ask a question now? Yes, you can ask questions now. You can even raise your hand and I can answer them there. The next question is, I'm using KAATSU with a patient suffering from TBI, traumatic brain injury, and still in a coma. GSC, that's a scale 5 to 6. I've been using low KAATSU mode and gotten calf circumference increase 1.5 centimeters over several months. I do 6 cycles of arms and twice daily. This is great. Thank you very much, doctor, for having confidence in KAATSU. I'm not sure how to progress. Likely slow increase the SKU at a week at a time, or increase the cycle from 6 to 9 to 12. You can actually do both. Also, when a person is in a coma or a quadriplegic or otherwise cannot move themselves, what we do is, I'm just going to use it because it's easier to see on the hand. You grab the person's wrist, and then you actually move the limb for them. We call this passive KAATSU, and that you can do that in addition to increasing your cycles. and increasing the pressure. You've been doing this now for over several months. So yeah, you could be increasing. Now, I would always start at low, and you can check if you go from low to medium high, if that's okay, by your capillary refill time. So again, I'll put the KAATSU bands on me and demonstrate the KAATSU refill time, the importance of the KAATSU refill time. So I'm putting it on here. And again, this is for a patient who is in a coma. And let me turn it on. Okay, so now I have the KAATSU on. And the way you check that it's okay, physiologically okay, to increase from low pressure to medium pressure to high pressure is by checking your capillary refill time. So I have the KAATSU bands on my left arm here, not on my right hand. You can see the difference after 20 seconds. So what you do is, and this is true for the quadriplegic, the comatose patient, et cetera, is to press your thumb or your forefinger into your hand and then release. And if this, the whiteness, the blanch part of your hand returns to a normal color or the pinker color, within a second, you're perfectly okay. If it takes 3 seconds or more, then there's too much pressure. So in other words, and how do you judge? Of course, it's not exact, but it's basically a 1001, 1002, 1003. So if I pressed my forefinger into my thumb, released, as soon as I release, you start counting 1001, 1002. So it was a little over a second. This would indicate that I can go, it's safe for me to go from a medium pressure, I'm sorry, a low pressure, what it's on now, to a medium pressure. And you could do the same with your patient with the hands or legs, and you could do it on the top of your foot, on the bottom of your foot, or on their thigh. That would be a good way to do it. Again, just like every other thing, you can do a form of isometric, either the bottom of their foot or putting their hands together and forcing them together, or this kind of passive of KAATSU. But I'm very happy to hear that the circumference of the calf has gotten bigger over several months, and you can do, different movements on the hands or feet. Next question is, can we get a question and answer summary document? Yes. What I'll do after or tomorrow morning is I will prepare, there's a bunch of questions. I verbally express the answers. I have them in written form. And if you send a question to info@kaatsu.com, I can send you out the list of questions and then my answers below. And then last question that we have tonight is, I get pain in my right arm if, another question came in. I get pain in my right arm if I put the armband above biceps. Is it okay to put the band below the biceps? No. If you get a pain in your right arm, when you put the band above your biceps, don't use KAATSU on that arm. I don't know why you get a pain in your arm. You can simply put, as I have here, you can have KAATSU on one arm. This is my right arm. Let's say this is you, and you can avoid the KAATSU on the arm that hurts. Keep the band on the arm that doesn't hurt, and continue to do the exercises. We actually have a paper on this. I think it was, this must have been back in 2006 or so. And what the professors did at the University of, where was it? Indiana, they only put KAATSU on one limb, but then they had the people do the exercises, and they demonstrated actually that there was muscle growth on the arm. There was muscle growth on both um, sides, which was cool. And we knew that would be the case with the arm that had the KAATSU on. And the scientists proved that that growth also occurred in the other arm, even without KAATSU. So if you have pain on any of your four limbs and it hurts, just avoid that limb. You can also always do it on the other limb. And we see this all the time with our amputees. Sometimes they have phantom pain, sometimes what do you call it, neuropathic pain, but and sometimes they want the band on the limb, the residual limb. Yeah, that's the one with the stump, the residual limb, and sometimes they want it on the other limb. So we still don't understand what is physiologically going on there, but we leave it to the user to tell us what they prefer. So it's okay to avoid using the band on that one arm. Now this is the last question. No, the questions still come in. So, how do you use KAATSU to build chest muscles? You use KAATSU in the same way that you would do normally. So let's say I want to build up my chest, still put the bands on your upper arms. You could be doing push-ups, you can be doing a bench press, you could do anything, any exercise that you normally do without KAATSU. You'd still put the bands on the arms. Now, what we recommend is you start off KAATSU with the smaller muscles and then move to the larger muscles. So for example, you still follow that same process that we had explained very early in this hour, and that is do 3 to 4 to 5 sets of each exercise with no more than 20 seconds rest in between, trying to do that first set at about 30 repetitions, maybe 25 to 30 repetitions, rest no more than 20 seconds, then do it again. Each time you do a subsequent set, you should experience muscle failure at an earlier and earlier time. So let's say you do the first set at 30 repetitions. Let's say you do the second set and it's 22 repetitions. Let's say you do the third set and it's 8 repetitions. And let's say you do the fourth set, and you can do 2 repetitions. Perfect. You do that for the smaller muscle groups. So your forearm, then your bicep, then your tricep, and then your chest, whether it's push-ups going slowly, whether it's a bench press, shoulder press, whatever you would like to do. Maybe it's butterflies, whatever it is. End your exercise with the larger muscle groups. You'll be fatigued by then, and then do it so you can do roughly 30. But in order to build up your torso, you still use the bands on your arms or your legs. Next question is, I've also used TENS with KAATSU. It feels good to me so far. Hope to see future research on the effects of combined therapies. Yeah, we don't do combined therapies. We do therapies in serial. So in other words, we'll do different or other people do therapies, let's say, and name the therapy. I'll say therapy A, and then KAATSU, or KAATSU and then therapy A. And we do this because each therapy has their specific physiological changes that occur in the body. And if KAATSU provides, let's say, 5 points, and therapy B provides 5 points, when you combine them, we don't believe that 5 points and 5 points equals 10 points. We believe that there's 5 points and 5 points, maybe it's 7 points or 8 points. So what we do is we separate them. We do them in serial, one right after the other, but we figure out. So we have a lot of professional teams that have almost every kind of modality out there for physical rehabilitation, and they ask us the same thing. Can we combine all these different modalities so the athlete is only doing 5 things in 15 minutes? And our response to that is, why don't you use each therapy for what it intends to do and simply do them one right after another in a logical order. So that's our stance on that. But we've not done any research on combined therapies and the benefits or the non-benefits of those. Do you charge for personalized advising that you offer at KAATSU at info@kaatsu.com? We do and we don't. So basic questions that come to me is free of charge. Some people all day long, mostly of what I do is answer questions from people asking these very specific questions for their own situation, whether they're sick, injured, or simply wanting to improve their performance in some way. And performance doesn't always mean sports. Performance is from musicians, dancers, artists, healthcare professionals. We have dentists who have, let's say, neck or back issues because of the way they sit, or surgeons who are standing for long periods of time, ophthalmologists who want to work out, but their fingertips and their hands are their bread and butter. So we provide, or I provide, and our company provides free information that way. However, if you would like very specific one-on-one guidance from experienced people, not myself, other people, you can go to our website, and there are one-on-one sessions, and all of the different master specialists have their background. For example, Chris Morgan is a Olympic swim coach, very renowned. He's got a who's who of well-known athletes you quite often see in the sports pages that he works with. If you would like to talk with him, you can talk with him. If you would like to talk to an older woman, maybe you're more comfortable speaking with an older woman, those instructors are available, and those people have their own fees. They're all different, and you just you can go through and speak with who you have. But if you have any questions, you can just send it to info@kaatsu.com. That gets to me, and then all day long, every day, 365 days a year, I'm answering questions. So thank you very much. I think that's all of our questions. And Kim, let's see if I can. Kim raised her hand. Now, let me see. Kim, go ahead, Kim. Go ahead, Kim.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to, this has been fabulous. It's been so informative, and I know myself and many others who have joined tonight have learned so much from you. So thank you very much, Stephen.
No problem.
And I was one actually who recently have the L5 compression fracture.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm caring for my mother, and she had a fall, and unfortunately, I thought I could pick her full body weight up, and didn't happen so well. But at any rate, I am definitely very familiar with KAATSU, and just was a little cautious about when to begin, because it's still pretty severe with pain. The local doctors actually recommended a neurosurgeon, which I'm not really keen on. I think there are other alternatives I can look at before going down that path. But you had mentioned the on your board of directors, the orthopedic specialist, and would there be a way of reaching out to?
Yes, his name is Dr. Chow. He's located in San Diego, California. Uh,
Okay.
Kim, if you could just send me your background and your question specifically, and then I actually went to school with Dr. Chow. He was 17 years the team doctor for the San Diego Chargers. He was also the chief medical officer for the X Games, which are all the extreme sports. So he's very familiar with an injury like yours. So just send an email, and then Dr. Chow will share his recommendations with you. And if um, your healthcare physician and him, if they wanted to talk to one another, we can facilitate that too.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Well, I would really appreciate it. As a matter of fact, I used to live in La Jolla for a very long
Okay.
time.
Okay. Yes.
Before having to come back and on the East Coast and care for my
Okay.
mom. But that would be wonderful. I sincerely appreciate that.
Okay. No, my pleasure. Okay. And let's see, there's Joan. Hello, Joan. Go ahead, Joan. Let's see.
Um,
Ah, go ahead. Let's see. Go ahead, Joan. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to, there you go.
that got it?
Yeah, yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I noticed I'm watching, you put your bands on,
Uh-huh.
but I don't hear anything. My bands are really loud and I don't hear. So are the other, like I have a C4
Uh,
and, but they're very loud. I'm wondering, like the ones that you have, are
yeah.
they as quiet as they sound there?
Yeah. So actually in the earlier session, someone asked, what is the difference between the C4 that you have
Right.
B2 that I was demonstrating today? And one of the reasons why there is such a price difference is because the components inside here are a very high difference in quality. And so
Okay.
one of the issues that people have asked us to improve as we go along is actually the noise, is actually the decibel level that is. So every time we make a new product, we try to improve the sound,
Okay.
minimize the sound quality. Um,
So I dropped my unit
uh,
into water and I just had
I
to
think I
order.
remember. I think I
You
remember your
do,
question.
you
Yes.
do. And so I just ordered a new unit
Uh-huh.
for mine. But if those are I have a sound sensitivity
Okay.
and I have to put blankets and everything to cover it when I'm using it. It's worth it to me if
Uh,
so
so,
since
but
I've
you can,
ordered it, could I ship this unit
yes,
back
yes.
and order a whole new set?
Yeah. So, Joan, if you could send an email as soon as we're over to
I
info
will.
and just say, I was on the webinar and, I heard Steve's B2 unit. I want
Yeah.
to switch my unit and I will call our customer service people who can make that
Okay.
change today or
Wonderful. Because,
tomorrow.
oh, that's wonderful. Because
Yeah.
I love this, but
Yeah.
I just can't hardly use it because of that. But I
Oh,
will do
okay.
that.
Okay.
And thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I think let me check okay. Well, thank you very much. We do these things regularly and your input, your recommendations, your trust and your interest in KAATSU is very much appreciated. And thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Bye.
Bye-bye.